Welcome to Love Under the Influence. I'm Pastor D.
And I'm Pastor Tay.
Together,
Together.
we redefine what marriage looks like under the will of God. What's up? What's up? What's up? It's Pastor D.
And I'm Pastor Tay.
Welcome to Love Under the Influence. On today's episode, we are talking about blended families.
Yeah, I think it's something that uh, needs to be talked about, needs to be discussed. And, a lot of times people get into a marriage
Mm-hmm.
where they forget that you're joining
Right,
a situation or a family that is already established.
right.
So you can't come in a forceful way.
Mm-hmm.
And so many times you have so many people that come in and like, oh, I'm a rule with an iron fist. I'm gonna be the man of this house. But what if that person has a teenage son?
Right, right.
What if that person has a teenage son that was the man of the house?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of times you come in the wrong way with the
Right.
wrong intent.
Mm-hmm.
You may love the mom or fell in love with the mom, but you got to identify how you feel about those children.
Right. So I think it's important early on to establish boundaries, to
Yeah.
have a meeting, say, look, I know this not your biological mother, or I know this not your biological
Right.
father, but this the person that's in my life. And then two, before it should happen like this, before the woman or the man get married, they should make sure that the kids already have like a somewhat of a relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That the kids, have not a voice in,
Or there has to be a
it have to be
connection.
a connection.
Sometimes there's not a connection.
Because here's what happens. So, like, say for instance, the man, she have teenage boys, and the man he come in trying to be dominant or saying, "Oh, you're not gonna do this or you're not gonna do that,"
Or
but
it's
they
a new sheriff in
right,
town.
and they always been able to do certain things because their mom gave them that leeway to do it. Now you come in and you not getting to know them on like a more personal level. You come in being forceful, you come in being blunt, you come in being real direct. And then two, when you have a blended family, you got to make sure that you love those kids as if they're your
Right.
own, because when it comes to discipline the kids, do you discipline your kids a little different than you discipline,
Yeah.
their kids? How are you with the kids? Is it favoritism involved? Do you show their kids the same type of love that you show your kids? When it comes to buying gifts, do you buy them the same type of gifts that you buy your kids? So that's stuff that kids pay attention to. Kids pay
Right.
attention to. So when you discipline your kids, you didn't hit them as hard as you hit me, or you didn't yell at
Right.
them like you yelled at me. So you got to make sure all that it don't play no part within the relationship, because that stuff is real sensitive when it comes to people kids. You got to make sure that you love those kids on the same level that you love your own.
Listen, I believe that there are warning signs when you are dating and when you introduce somebody to your child.
Hmm.
There are warning signs. Do not ignore those warning signs.
Right,
Do not go to that altar, get married to somebody that you already know do not like your children.
right.
That's the first red flag because you are already a team.
Hmm.
And I like to refer to sports. It's just like when LeBron decided to go to the Heat. Guess what he had to do? He had to become a team player. He could not go down there trying to rule with an iron fist, thinking that he knew it all. He had to go and adapt to that surrounding. Why? Because he wanted to win. And a
Hmm.
lot of times you can't win in a relationship because you put your ego, your pride, and oh, it's what I say goes.
Right,
How is it that you can go into a situation that you're new to and say all of a sudden, I'm the rule changer, but you ain't following none of the rules?
right.
You came and broke all of their rules, broke their rhythm. Instead of figuring out how you could be a part of the solution, you
Hmm.
made bigger problems and caused more hurt than you did anything.
Right.
And a lot of times, I've seen this in so many people that we've counseled.
Hmm.
Men are usually jealous if the boys are being babied
Hmm.
by their moms.
Right.
But that was a situation that was already done
Mm-hmm.
before you came into play.
Right. Right.
So as you come in the loving position, the loving person that you are supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You're going to find a way to change that narrative,
Right.
but you change the narrative with love. The Bible says, love and kindness have I drawn thee.
Mm-hmm.
When a child trusts you, they'll honor you.
Right.
If a child does not trust you, a child will not honor
Right.
you.
For example, it's like someone that work at Sears and they left Sears and went to J.C. Penney's. Although the concept and the format might be the same,
Right.
but J.C. Penney do things different than Sears does it.
Yeah.
You might be coming from a household and you go into a different household because it worked at the previous household. It doesn't mean it's going to work in this household. So
Right.
you got to be willing to make adjustments. You have to be willing to do things differently because at the
Right.
end of the day, when you become together and your wife had kids previously and you had kids previously and now y'all are blended family, you want to make sure that it's a team. You want to make
Yeah.
sure that nobody feels like they're being picked on or their child is getting treated some type of way
Right.
because they're not your own biological child. But
Right.
when you said I do, y'all became one. It's a
Yeah.
package. When you said I do to the woman, you didn't just say I do to her. You said I do to her kids too. And it's
Right.
the same thing. When you said I do to your husband, you said I do to his kids too. So
Yeah.
in order for that family to function, in order for that household to run on one accord, everybody has to be on the same page.
Right.
Not saying you have to allow the child to do whatever they want because you're trying to win
Exactly.
over their friendship or win over their love. No, when they're wrong, you correct them, but you correct them in love. You
Yeah.
correct them saying, "Look, when you did that now, that was out of order, but I'm not going to just chastise you harder or try to ride you harder
Yeah.
because you're not my child."
And if you are a firm disciplinarian, then that's a sign that this relationship probably not going to work
Right.
because you already saw what type of parent she was
Mm-hmm.
beforehand.
Right.
So you got to ask yourself, is that what I'm willing to deal with?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to change this when I get up in here
Right.
because your motive not right.
Right. Right.
Now your motive is to divide. Now your motive is to show how big your muscles are.
Mm-hmm.
No, it shows how weak you are. Because instead of coming to a situation where you were supposed to make a difference, you cause division.
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to make a difference, not
Right.
cause division.
Right. And that's why it's important in the dating process that you learn and that you get to know these kids because you just say if the dad used to spoiling his kids, buying them whatever they want, and you didn't do that with your kids. You're not used to going
Yeah.
over and beyond for your kids, but he did. So
Yeah.
is that going to make you feel a type of way? So that's why in the dating process, you not only should get to know the person who you are marrying, but if they have kids, you need to go on date with the kids too.
Yeah.
Hey, it shouldn't be all about the woman or
Yeah.
all about the man. Hey, listen, okay, we have date night with each other, which is
Right.
cool. Now let's have a date night with the kids. Are the kids bad? Do the person, the husband or the wife, do they have a problem with you checking the kids or
Yeah.
confronting the kids when they in error? Because if that's an issue, then it's going to be an issue in the marriage. Okay, the kids are bad. Now I'm telling them stop jumping, stop running, stop tearing up stuff. Are you going to be offended when I confront them? Will you be offended if I discipline them? So that's stuff you have to know in the dating process to see if this marriage needs to go to the next level.
Right.
You and the woman, y'all might be in love, but when it comes to the kids, does everything mesh perfectly?
Yeah.
Or does
It, it,
everything mesh, in a
is
good
it
way?
a perfect fit
Right.
or is it too small?
Mm-hmm.
Is it too big?
Right.
Because one thing that I know is this. A lot of times women will say, well, these kids not going to be little always. I got to make sure that I'm happy.
Right.
Yes. However, if your children are miserable, how can you see yourself as happy?
Mm-hmm.
If your children are not being cared for,
Right.
I don't have a problem with you allowing somebody to discipline your child. However, if that person that's invited into the family don't have a heart for your children, then they should not put their hands on your children.
Right.
If they don't love your children, if they don't like your children, they should not be allowed to put their hands on your
Right.
children.
Because
Period. If
if
you
you,
don't have a heart for them,
how can you
you'll mistreat them.
right? If you don't have a heart for somebody,
And then you
how
got to
can
pay
you?
attention. Stop acting like you don't see that
Right.
side eye.
Right.
Confront the side eye. And then it's a good idea to always get counseling. And if you sign up for marriage counseling, do a couple of sessions with the
Hmm.
children and also do sessions with the children, especially if one of the spouses is deceased.
Right.
You got to make sure that you're saying, hey, I'm a new person. I am not here to take the place.
Right.
I'm not here to take your dad's place. I'm not here to take your mom's place or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
I'm here to join this family as an individual
Right.
in hopes to be a loving bonus dad, in
Hmm.
hopes to be a loving bonus mom, and so on.
Hmm.
So a lot of times you go in and you're like, oh, they taking advantage of him. But they was taking advantage of him before you came along.
Right.
So now you got to ask God for wisdom on a way to get this thing sorted out
Hmm.
without confusion. Now, anytime you rock the boat, it's gonna be some confusion,
Right.
but it doesn't have to always be a negative response from you.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, hey, baby, we need to talk about this. Your kids are out of control.
Hmm.
And here's the thing: either you're gonna address that in this relationship that your kids are out of control,
Right.
or you're gonna address it in the next relationship that your kids are out of control. Maybe you don't know how to discipline them.
Hmm. And then
You
you don't
know?
and then you don't want to be that parent that always say my kids don't do no wrong. My kids don't do this. My kids don't do that. Can't nobody tell your kids nothing. You allow your kids to control you, and then your kids controlling you is ruining your relationships
Yeah.
because you're afraid to confront your kids. But one day your kids gonna get older and they're gonna have a life of their own, and you don't want to you don't want to lose who you are and always trying to, justify your
Yeah.
kids' negative behavior.
Well, one thing I know is your kids will grow up,
Right.
but you shouldn't allow somebody to come in and mistreat them because you're lonely.
Exactly.
You shouldn't allow somebody to come in and mistreat them because you're tired of taking out your trash by yourself or you're tired of cutting your grass by yourself. And
Mhm.
you cannot ignore the warning signs.
Right.
Maybe a person is into you, but not into what came from you or
Right.
came out of you. If you don't hold your whoever you're dating or your fiance accountable, who else will? These are my children.
Right.
This is how we came in. You come in not as a person that rules with an iron fist, but you come in as a team player to get to know the kids, get to know these children, see where their heart is, see where they're hurting, and see how you can be a part of the difference and not a part of the division.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because your job is to make whoever life that you're marrying, you want to make your spouse life better,
Right.
not worse. Now you got some kids that no matter what you do, they just gonna give you a hard time.
Right.
Just period.
Hmm.
But then that's when you gotta be accountable.
Hmm.
You gotta have a conversation with your spouse or your future spouse and say, look, I really want to marry you, but I can't marry you until we nip this stuff in the bud. You can't think that marriage is going to fix it.
Right.
Marriage is not going to fix the problems that are pre-existing. You're
Hmm.
just going into a covenant with pre-existing issues that went unresolved.
Hmm.
You cannot think that, oh, well, it'll be all right. Once we get married, everything will change. No, once you get married, your last name is going to change and everything that you did not confront is going to remain the same. You cannot let somebody come into your life that is mistreating your kids and you pretending like you don't see it. You cannot let your kids come in and dictate if you're going to be single for the rest of your life,
Right.
because having rebellious kids will probably be the signal if you do not correct them, if you do not chastise them, well, they're grieving, well, they're this, and whether they're stop making excuses for these kids and say, listen, if you're grieving, allow that to be your opportunity, not your excuse, not your excuse to fail, not your excuse to have negative behavior, not your excuse to go around and be reckless, but the opportunity for you to show up and be great, the opportunity for you to be all that your dad or whoever you lost, all that they put in you. Now is your opportunity to win for them because they may be dead to the world, but they are living still alive in your heart
Mhm.
and alive in heaven. So now you got to use your opportunity as motivation instead of an excuse to be reckless and negative. I'm not going to let you dictate my life. I'm moving forward. This person ain't been nothing but nice to you. I've been looking at this person. Also been watching you. So
Mhm.
the problem is we get to looking at the person that we date, but we ignore our kids' behavior.
Right.
You
So
gotta you gotta evaluate both, I
so
believe.
so let me ask you this: what type of advice would you give a couple? Say that the husband and wife, they're in a good place. The husband and wife, they're in a good space. They get along. They're in love. They don't have no issues together. But their only issue is their kids don't get along. Their kids keep bickering. Their kids keep fighting. The husband and wife is good, but their kids not getting along. So if a couple came to you and asked you what type of advice would you give them concerning that issue?
Well, one, I would tell them to have a family meeting,
Hmm.
and I would let the children know that they can be honest without consequence,
Right.
and let them know this is a safe space
Hmm.
for your honesty,
Right.
and nobody's going to be offended. Once you find out the real issues, then you'll be able to address the issues.
Hmm.
But you can't confront what doesn't exist
Right.
or what you don't know about.
Hmm.
Secondly, if you caught your spouse or your future spouse mistreating your children, you have to call that negative behavior out immediately. You may not do it in front of your kids because your kids will use that against you, and they'll also use it to their advantage. Children gonna be children. You just gotta say what it is. But you got to immediately, matter of fact, I'll say this. Even though we're married, we don't have a blended family.
Hmm.
But think about the times that I may have disciplined the kids in a way that you didn't like.
Right. Right.
And talk about that.
Yeah, I would say something to you. I would come to you, and early on, sometimes I would do it in front of the
Yeah.
kids, and I had to learn, even with you being wrong, that wasn't the way to go about it, because then kids could use that to play us
Yeah.
against each other.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Because you didn't like the form of discipline because
Yeah,
you're more
I'm
gentle
more gentle.
and
Yeah,
I'm not.
I didn't like the form of
I'm not.
discipline. So early on, that's one of the things that we will fall out about. You know what I'm saying? About when it came to how you discipline the kids, and sometimes, how you will talk to them. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So, I had to learn early on, sometimes, in the heat of the moment, I would just say it right then and there.
Yeah.
But I
And they
had,
use that.
yeah, but I had to learn, okay, let me calm down. Let me wait till the kids go to a different room, then I will address the issue. And sometimes people have learned behavior
Yep.
on how they discipline,
Yep.
or on how they react to certain situations. Your upbringing wasn't my upbringing. My upbringing wasn't your
Right.
upbringing. So we all learn through trial and error. Coming up, maybe someone seen their mom always yell or their dad always yell, so they
Right.
thought that was how you discipline. They was thought that's how you chastise your kids. Sometimes you may have to yell at your kids. Sometimes you may have to whip they behind. So, but you gotta know what works best for your
And
household
whatever the
and
situation
whatever the
is.
situation is, because every situation
Doesn't
doesn't cause a
yeah.
butt whipping. So some situations you may just have to sit them down and talk to them. Hey, listen, you shouldn't have done that. Okay, even if you thought they deserved a butt whipping, sometimes you just having a conversation with them, or maybe you just taking away something from them, a
Right.
phone, or they can't play the game, or they can't,
Right.
play football or basketball, whatever it may be. You just have to learn different methods until you learn what works, in your household.
Yeah. I believe, to be honest, I believe moving forward nowadays, you have to be honest with yourself.
Mhm.
And if you can't be honest with yourself, you ain't gonna be honest with nobody.
Right.
You got to identify the issues.
Hmm.
You can't ignore this stuff. Like, you can't allow a mean spirited person to ruin your relationship with your children.
Right.
You cannot allow a mean spirited person to come and crush the spirit of your child. So what? Your son is soft spoken. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't make him weak.
Right.
He probably just a person of little words.
Hmm.
And the Bible says that's a smart person.
Right.
Because the Bible says that a fool is full of words.
Hmm.
So maybe he's at a point in his life where he feels like, I don't want to be vocal right now. Maybe he's internalizing some things. And the right thing for you to do as a person that's making this family blended,
Mhm.
you should have a different approach.
Right.
Like, don't go in there, because guess what? A barking dog, nobody tries to pet a barking dog.
Mhm.
Nobody tries to comfort a barking dog.
Right.
What do they usually do? Walk away from them.
Mhm.
They don't want to be bothered. So you can't get upset if these children don't want to be bothered with you because you came in and instead of you making a difference, you created division.
Right.
So, of course, they're not going to want to be bothered with you.
Mhm. And then make sure you always lead with love.
Yeah, that's
You always
powerful,
you
baby.
have to
That
always
is
you always have
powerful.
to lead with love.
Lead with
If
love.
you lead with love, it would diffuse the situation. Even if the
Yes.
situation was a little chaotic, if you lead with love, it will diffuse the situation. And it's extremely important in the dating process to date the kids.
Yeah. And I just want to tell the women this: pay attention. Pay attention. Be careful who you leave your children with.
Mhm.
If your daughters are cringing, if your sons are cringing. Matter of fact, I'm just saying this to all parents because nowadays you got females that's doing crazy stuff too. So
Mhm.
I'm not gonna just address that to the women. I'm gonna say period. Pay attention to how your children act when these people are around.
Right.
Pay attention to the fact if your child usually is a child that stays home all the time, but when this person is at home, they don't want to stay at home alone with them.
Mhm.
Pay attention. Don't allow your loneliness to speak louder than your discernment.
Right.
Pray and seek God. Don't rush in to bring somebody into your kid's life, but don't hold back and be stagnant
Mhm.
because that means you'll be done fell in love and it'll break your heart
Mhm.
if this person is not suitable to be around your children.
Right.
So be led by the Holy Spirit when it comes to the introduction. Now,
Mhm.
for those of you that are already married, it's never too late to hit the reset button. You can start over. You can begin again.
Mhm.
You can acknowledge the problems and the issues that you bring to the table so that you guys can eliminate it, heal, and grow together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All I know is a lot of blended things work.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of blended things work. And I believe that prayer can be the blender.
Mhm. And
You
and
know what
it,
I'm saying?
it
To help blend everything, make that perfect mix
and
so
what
it can,
and what helps
be
it
better.
what helps it work is when everybody know their role. You
Everybody
don't
know
you
their
don't you
role.
don't come in trying to overcompensate
Yeah.
or even undercompensate. You just find that good steadfast consistent way of doing things, and you just be consistent in your
Yeah.
love. You be consistent with your commitment. You be consistent in that relationship. And even if I mean you're not seeing eye to eye at first because it's new to everybody.
It's new to everybody.
If you lead with love, everything will blend perfectly.
Because if you think about this, and I'm going to close with this. If you think about this, baby, usually when a player go to a football team,
Hmm.
especially if they've been drafted,
Hmm.
they got to learn the
You
ropes.
gotta learn the ropes.
They got to learn the team. They have to become one with what's unfamiliar.
Hmm.
So instead of coming in with your ways, come in and try to see where you fit in.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, you have a starting position already. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
The woman or the man already gave you a starting position. Don't forfeit it just to prove that you the star or to prove
Right.
that you're this and you're that. Listen, I want to come in here and I want to be the icing on the cake.
Hmm.
I don't want to be the lemon taste. I don't want to be the bitterness.
Right.
I want to add sugar. I want to add flavor. I want to add life. I want to add value. I don't want to take away from it.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I want you to be familiar with who I am as an individual.
Hmm.
And I want to get to know you so I could grow in love. and
Mm.
love you.
Mm. That was powerful.
Man, listen, thank you for tuning in. That's it for today's episode. I pray that you guys enjoyed it. I'm telling you, Love Under the Influence is moving forward. God is so good. Right now, we're at 1,500 subscribers. Head on over to our YouTube if you haven't already. We're about to release a few premieres that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Be sure to tell somebody about Love Under the Influence. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram at Open Wings M. Baby, do you have something to say before we
I
close out?
say we thank God for y'all love
Yeah,
and influence. It's an awesome community. It's a family. Our goal is to change families all around the world with our
right.
testimony, by us being transparent and just showing people that you could be married, you could still have fun,
Yeah,
you could still enjoy your family, and you could still just enjoy life
yeah.
by being married to the person that you love, that you committed to. And I'm just super excited, man.
Me too. I'm Pastor Tay.
And I'm Pastor D.
Peace.
Peace.